Okay, welcome to the January 31st meeting of the Select Board, Lenox Select Board. First off, we have announcements from the chair, and I am going to turn this over to Mary Beth, and she's going to explain what she learned last week.
Great. I went to the Mass Municipal Association conference in Boston with Mr. Ketchen and Ms. Patnaud, our HR person, and we learned a lot of things. And one of the things that I learned about was the fact that there has been an Internet for All survey available in Berkshire County. I remember filling this out about a month ago. This survey is currently on the Lenox website. If you go to the Town of Lenox website, click on What's New, which is one of the 5 menu items at the bottom of the page, and then go to Town News and Notices. The 5th item is the Internet for All in Berkshire County survey. Everybody who has internet service should fill this out. It's a very brief survey. It won't take more than 60 seconds. And it is to make sure that everyone in our county has fast and reliable internet service. Many people in Berkshire County also belong to a state program that's been funded to assist low and moderate income households so that they don't have to pay more than $30 a month for internet. And that program is sunsetting in April of 2024. So in 2 months, that program will not be available anymore, which is why it's really important for us to get this feedback from everybody that we can possibly get feedback from so that Berkshire County can go forward with getting more money from the state and or getting the Mass Broadband Institute to make improvements not only to Lenox but to other parts of Berkshire County. So I just wanted to highlight that for everyone.
Yep, important stuff, because we know how important internet is. You just can't do anything without it nowadays. So moving along, we'll go for acceptance of the minutes of January 17th.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of January 17th.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, citizens open forum. Any Lenox resident that wants to speak for 2 minutes, identify yourself and you can speak. Oh, and I forgot to say that at the beginning of the meeting, Mr. Fanto isn't here from the Berkshire Eagle recording, but Diego is here from CTSB recording. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Roach, can you read that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the consent agenda reads, Berkshire Lyric Theater requests use of the auditorium on March 16th, 17th of 2024 from 1 to 3 p.m. for a choral concert. Next is Chief Christopher O'Brien is seeking permission to accept a monetary donation to the fire department. Then we have Mass Audubon request permission to stage a 5 and 10K trail race walk fundraiser on June 22nd, 2024. And lastly, Berkshire International Film Festival requests use of an auditorium for a film screening March 22nd and the film festival May 31st through June 2nd, 2024.
Okay, no holds on any of the items, so I'll look for a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if you got the.
I don't know if you get the,
So moved.
Yeah, so-
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, he said.
Oh,
yeah, we got a quick second.
okay.
Okay, we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I thought you were going to comment on one of the items on there or something. I was looking at it.
Oh, no. When you asked for a motion to approve, Dave said second, so I
Just jumped in.
We got it done.
Yep.
Okay, general business. First, we have a public hearing. We have 2 public hearings tonight. The first one is for Price Chopper for an amendment to a liquor license. So if I can have the clerk read the meeting notice.
I will, Mr. Chairman. Notice is hereby given that a hearing will be held by the Select Board in their capacity as licensing board on an application for a change in manager, change of officers, directors, and LLC manager in an annual all-alcoholic package store license, which has been filed with a local licensing board by Price Chopper Operating Company of Massachusetts. David Bryan Smith, manager, for the premises located at 495 Pittsfield Road, Lenox, and consisting of a supermarket, consisting of 51,580 square feet located on the ground floor with storage areas located inside the store with 2 main entrances and exits. The board will act on said application on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Town Hall Building, Lenox, Mass. Ed Lane, Chairman, Lenox Select Board.
Thank you, Dave. And now can we get a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
So I'm sure we have representatives here from Price Chopper to explain what you're doing. If I just identify yourself.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Eugene Richard, representing the licensed entity, Price Chopper Operating Company of Massachusetts, Inc. With me is Jim Collins, who is the proposed manager on the license. There are really two parts to this application. The first is the change of manager to Jim from Dave Smith. And then there are a number of officers and directors, that, two of which are changing on the licensed entity. The treasurer is changing from Jim Peterson to Carol Sillis, and a director is changing. So Frank Kersey is retiring, and Mark Gross is his replacement. Then there are a number of officer-director changes in the entities that are above, in the ownership structure above the licensee. Those are set forth in the application. There's a document that explains all that, and the ownership structure. I could somewhat help you, but it's
been a lot going on there, hasn't there?
Yes. So it goes back a couple of years to, there was a merger with Tops Markets. So they're still, settling that sort of thing. But that's what we're asking for today. I will say quickly that there's not going to be any changes operationally, or there shouldn't be, that you would notice as a shopper or even as a town official. But Jim has been employed with Price Chopper for close to 40 years. I think slightly over, slightly under. 41.
Good for you.
Yeah. And has been a manager of licensed premises before. He's a U.S. citizen. He is a resident of Lenox. He is very familiar with how alcohol should be sold, both in terms of state laws and also the Price Chopper interior systems that make sure that's all been done correctly. No problems with the store that I'm aware of, no problems with Jim, and we would respectfully ask that, pending any questions, that you approve the application.
Deanna, I'm sure you've been over this with a fine-tooth comb and everything is in order. Does the board have any questions?
No questions.
No, I read through the,
No, I simply say the Price
Application.
Chopper's been a good neighbor, so keep up the good work.
Excellent to hear. I'll pass that along.
Okay, so I guess we can get a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll get a motion, Dave?
So I move to find my motion. I move to approve the amendments to the liquor license for Price Chopper located at 495 Pittsfield Road in accordance with their application dated December 27th, 2023.
second. Was that a motion? Yeah.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
all set.
Thank you, folks.
Good luck, thank you. Okay, now we have another public hearing, and this is for the Hampton Inn, and it's alteration of premises. So if the clerk will read the notice on this?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice is hereby given that a hearing will be held by the Lenox Select Board in their capacity as licensing board on the application for an alteration of premises in an annual wine and malt hotel license which has been filed with the local licensing board by HBL Concessions, LLC, doing business as a Hampton Inn and Suites, Lenox, Berkshires, Eliza Town manager for the premises located at 445 Pittsfield Road, Lenox, and consisting of 3 floors totaling 51,000 387 square feet, 4 entrances and exits, proposing the addition of a self-pour station. The board will act on said application on Wednesday, January 31st at 6 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Town Hall Building, Lenox, Mass. Ed Lane, Chairman, Select Board.
Thank you, sir. And we'll get a motion to open the public
Move
hearing.
that we open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You go over there and tell us what you're doing.
So I'm the general manager of Hampton Inn. We are looking to bring a self-pour beer and wine station into the hotel. This will be the third one that our company is hoping to install. They're doing one in Hyannis, Massachusetts as well. It'll be beer and wine only, 2 beers and then a red and a white wine. The guests will have to come to the front desk, show their ID. They'll be given a card that will be loaded for them to purchase only up to 2 drinks. The station is in front of the front desk at all times. While our liquor license says we can sell between 8 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., we're only going to have it open from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Because we do serve a hot breakfast, we don't want that open or anybody using that. So it'll be closed off with a folding screen that'll be removable, just so it's not anybody asking questions when it's not open.
This is kind of different for me, but ABCC is all
Right.
good with it?
Yes, they
Yeah.
said this is, they're seeing more and more of this now, and it would just be an alteration of premises.
Okay.
Sounds like you've got all the right controls in place and you've got the hours locked down a little bit, which is pretty smart.
And all our staff is already tip certified. They do their training every 3 years because we already sell it on property. So they know what they need to do if somebody comes up and they shouldn't be having any more. They're all comfortable to say, no more, go to your room. But for us, we don't have a bar on site, so guests do come into downtown Lenox. And since there's no Ubers, it'll actually allow them to stay on property and not be driving under the influence as well. So
Smart.
So the front desk is manned the whole time?
24 hours a day.
That's what, yeah, I was reading through this and I couldn't really figure that part out. So the people who are at the front desk or in the vicinity of this self-pour station are tip certified?
Yep, everybody at the front desk, including management, myself, and our sales department. So anybody that would be approved to hand out these cards or access to any of the alcohol is all tip certified.
Max, our expert in this area, this is what we're seeing more of
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. That's pretty standard.
Sounds good to me. Does any other questions or discussion? I can get a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah. I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can get a motion?
I got it.
Oh, you got it.
Thank you. So I move to approve the alteration of the premises on the liquor license bill for HBL Concessions DBA Hampton Inn and Suites located at 445 Pittsfield Road in accordance with their application dated January 2nd, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank
Go for
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
You too.
Okay, so next we want to have a discussion. We're looking for support for a paint stewardship program. This is, I mean, we've all read this over, pretty cool idea. And, we have Tom Irwin here tonight to give us a short explanation of it, even though we have read all your literature and everything. But if you can just stand up to the mic, just for the camera.
Good evening. My name is Tom Irwin. I live in Dalton. And while I was a member of the Dalton Waste Management and Recycling Committee, we were tasked with trying to decrease the amount of total solid waste going to our landfill. And I learned of paint stewardship in the course of that study, thought it was a great idea, and confirmed that it was actually well received in our neighboring states of Connecticut, Vermont, and New York by actually visiting retailers and talking with residents of those states, and found that neither the individuals or the retailers had any complaints. In fact, what I learned from Sherwin-Williams and the other small stores is they actually loved the idea because it actually brought in additional foot traffic. So I kind of want to review a few things. I think it's important to kind of highlight why this is all essential. It's that 5.9 million tons of waste that are generated annually and growing by 2 to 3% per year, a fixed 3.2 million tons of incineration capacity, all based in the eastern part of our state, leaving 2.7 million tons and growing of waste that needs to be landfilled. There are only 16 landfills in the state. 5 of those are municipal. There are no new landfills planned. So all of that stuff has to be hauled out of state to places as far away as Ohio, South Carolina, and so forth, which is obviously expensive gas-wise, and which generates a considerable carbon footprint. Our alternative to this is an entity called product stewardship, which can address many different items, not all items, but many. And one of those is paint, which is the subject matter tonight. And paint may be small, however, the deal is it's an important first step. Yeah, thank you. I was worried about that for a second. Appreciate that. No worries. It's small, but it's a entity in principle. It will demonstrate that EPR works in this state, that it does not cause any of the undue concerns that the Retailers Association of Massachusetts has with EPR laws, and that other entities such as mattresses, solar panels, plastic packaging, and so forth can be addressed by the same kind of approach. So we'll just review quickly, because I imagine you all have read that paint stewardship is a program which will allow anyone to return any unwanted paint that they have to a participating retailer any day that retailer is open, and it'll cost them nothing at the time they drop the paint off. The lift for this, 75 cents on average in participating states when you buy a gallon of paint, or $1.75 when you buy 5 gallons. They're not trying to make money on it. They're just trying to break even. As an evidence of the fact that they do break even, in Connecticut, that price of 75 cents per gallon has not changed in over a decade. I think that's wonderful. And it's true as well in Rhode Island. I haven't investigated Maine as much. In Vermont, the price is actually going up, but that's not because it's not working in Vermont. It's because so many people from New Hampshire and Massachusetts are returning their paint to Vermont that they had to up their fee just to cover the costs. I want to touch on the key benefits of this. So what is Lenox going to see? What are the residents going to see? And number one, of course, is that it's going to be a program that your people are going to love. Okay, those filled basements and those garages can now get relieved of their paint anytime people wish to get rid of them. It is also worthy to note that 60% of the paint that it gets returned on average to the Sherwin-Williams store in Enfield, Connecticut comes from Massachusetts residents. If you're within 10 to 15 miles of the border, that paint is in large part going to come from Massachusetts residents, which isn't, it's okay, it's a little embarrassing, we should take care of our own mess, but at the same time it does clearly articulate how much pent-up desire to do, quote-unquote, the right thing is here in this state. I think it's also worthwhile to note, I've gone to 7 different household hazardous waste days, and of the 735 people I've talked to, 92% of them have signed petitions encouraging their legislators to become co-sponsors of the bill. This kind of suggests that 92% of people in Lenox who have paint in their basement or the garage, and are likely there are many, would be supporters of this bill. Second, I think it'd be a delight to hear that there is no cost that this is going to present to the town of Lenox, plus the RDP monies that you have to allocate to manage waste now can be reallocated to other waste issues, which I think is also wonderful. And also, it matters to me as a former chemical engineer that you will also substantially reduce the incidence of people taking their unwanted oil-based paints and sneaking them into the trash and having unwanted hazardous waste entering our landfills. And finally, as we kind of touched on previously, this is going to be a model for us to go and put a lot of other legislation together, whether it's solar panels or lithium batteries for cars and so forth. And we're planning in subsequent legislative sessions to present that information as well. I imagine you folks have read that the scoop is that We haven't passed this legislation in the previous 6 sessions simply because with 6,000 to 7,000 bills lodged each time, with only capacity to deal with 4% of that, the numbers favor any program that's going to save tons of money or has a substantial social outcry. We only save $2 million, which is, nice for all of us, but is small change for the state. The other issue is that very few people are aware of the program. I've collected over 3,000 signatures in support of this legislation, and when I started out, if 1% of the people knew about it, I was surprised. And now I would say 5% of the people at the tail end of when I was collecting signatures are aware of that. And those signatures were collected from Worcester County going west. So what are our next steps? My feeling is that since the residents of Lenox will appreciate the bill, and since over 85 municipalities support this bill, and since saving our environment demands bills like this, please strongly consider adding Lenox valuable supportive resolution to the list of bill supporters. I'm pleased to share that the paint stewardship has been viewed favorably by the Environmental and Natural Resources Committee and reported out to the Ways and Means on January 18th. This is the earliest date that this has happened. I think this is a hallmark of the effort that has been placed by the individuals such as myself trying to get this legislation forward, and it's reason for optimism. That said, it will be extremely valuable to have as many resolutions as possible from municipalities encouraging the Ways and Means Committee chairs to view paint stewardship favorably and send it to the full House and full Senate for a vote so it can become law in our state as well. Thank you. And are there any questions?
I don't have any questions, but first I want to thank you for the effort you put into this. I mean, I can tell it's been a ton of work,
Thank
and
you.
it's really appreciated that somebody would just volunteer to do that, so that's great. And I personally think it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Great.
I absolutely feel like we should support this. Is there other ways that we can help? And, it seems like you're doing a ton of legwork, and it's trying to get as many towns on board as possible. I mean, do either the environmental agencies have anything to say about this? When it gets to the Senate and it's not like this big dollar juicy thing to do, doesn't like the environmental cost of what's happening now factor in?
In conversations with leadership of the Ways and Means Committee, what I've been told is if we can demonstrate priority, which your resolution will do, that they will strongly consider this bill as they have not in the past. So your resolution, I'm gunning for 40, and I've got 15 so far. Yours will be 16. And I believe, and I've got it laid out to be able to get this done by mid-March, that you'll have provided 2.5% of the push that's needed to get it done. So your resolution is huge. It may feel small, but it is huge.
So can I ask, so would it help if we, the Select Board, wrote a letter to our representative, Smitty Pignatelli, informing him that we endorse this program and whatever he could do to help push it through? Would that be of benefit?
That would be a benefit as well. If you were to ask him to speak with leadership on the House Ways and Means Committee, that's be Representative Mickelwitz, and ask that he, share the ardent desire of our communities for this, that would be also very helpful.
So I'll ask Chairman Lane to work with Town Manager to see if we can't get a letter of support.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris, you got something to?
When you
Yeah, no, I think that's important, we'll do the vote on this, but on the side, we will work with.
So there's two things, right? So there's the resolution that others, and then, a
Independent
letter.
to Smitty.
Has this been scheduled for a Ways and Means hearing yet?
I'm not aware of any
Okay.
actual public hearing that's going to be.
do we-
However, letters are considered evidence. So if you were
Yeah.
to send that to Smitty Pignatelli and also carbon copy Representative Mickelwitz, that would be considered evidence to the Ways and Means, House Ways and Means Committee
So-
that they would weigh.
And Representative Pignatelli has already indicated that he's a proponent of this legislation.
But we'll
It
get
would
it,
it would
we'll
be
get it
help.
in writing, don't do it the wrong way.
It'd also be helpful for us to know when a hearing is scheduled, I think. If it's,
Like, it's boggling, who wouldn't support this?
yeah,
Right. How about, I mean, it starts at the House, but we want to write a similar letter to Senator Mark?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed. It's gonna be the House first, then goes to the House for a full vote, full House for the full vote. Then it goes to the Senate Ways and Means, they process it, and then it'll go to the full Senate for a vote. If we're able to get it through the House, we feel pretty comfortable that, that the Senate will view it positively as well.
Okay.
We'll do what we can do.
Much appreciated, thank you.
Oh, appreciate
The
it.
appreciation for
Yeah,
your efforts.
Appreciation, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so can we get a motion on that, Dave?
You may, yes. I move to approve the resolution in support of paint stewardship legislation as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks again, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving right along. Next thing on the agenda is our comments to the EPA on the rest of the river transportation plan. Chris has authored a letter, and he's gonna actually read it to us. It's relatively short, of what our response is, and it's due tomorrow, no, February 1st, as is everybody else's response that hopefully a lot of them got in there.
So I'm unclear whether I can sit through this or not. I mean, I think it's well known that I reached out to Weston and Sampson as the engineer to help us when we were trying to find one. And I've obviously read the letter, it's on the website, but I don't know if I should participate in making comments on it.
I would just not comment at all. You know, I mean, you can sit in here because it's a public document,
Yeah,
but just no comments.
okay.
Maybe abstain from a formal vote, assuming it comes to that. All right. So as Chairman Lane indicated, drafted for the board's consideration, posted online as part of the board packet. It's roughly 2.5-page letter with 2 substantial attachments in support of the board's position. So I'll go ahead and read that now. It's dated February 1st, though we could probably send it tonight after the meeting. It's to Dean Tagliaferro at EPA New England via email, r1housatonic@epa.gov. Dear Mr. Tagliaferro, the purpose of this letter is to convey comments and concerns of the town of Lenox regarding the remediation of polychlorinated biphenyls in the Housatonic River. Lenox recognizes that while the remedy selection process is over, the all-important process of implementing the rest of river permit is ongoing. As such, it is the full focus and attention of the town, and we are eager to work with EPA Region 1 to maximize the safety, efficiency, and effectiveness of the cleanup throughout implementation. Part of implementation is the approval of a transportation and disposal plan, a proposal for which General Electric has submitted through their subcontractor Arcadis on October 31st, 2023. I and members of my team have thoroughly reviewed the GE Arcadis proposal and accompanying data submitted. Furthermore, the town of Lenox has engaged an independent engineering firm, Weston & Sampson, to evaluate the plan. This letter constitutes the town's response to the Environmental Protection Agency as approved by the Lenox Selectboard on January 31st, 2024, in advance of the formal comment deadline on February 1st, 2024. So under the heading of general comments on the T&D plan. Acting on behalf of GE, Arcadis submitted their on-site and off-site transportation and disposal plan on October 31st, 2023. As stated by the Lenox Select Board Chair the following day, November 1st, the plan is woefully inadequate, left a lot of unanswered questions, and failed to address concerns previously raised by Lenox. Also at that meeting, the board sought to collaborate with the towns of Lee, Stockbridge, Great Barrington, and Sheffield on a joint response endorsing further exploration of rail transport. On December 20th, 2023, the board approved a joint signature letter to this end, along with the aforementioned towns and West Stockbridge. The text of that letter is attached to this filing and has been submitted to EPA under separate cover. Lennox previously submitted comments regarding GE's preliminary plan on August 31st, 2023, in which we urged maximization of hydraulic and rail transport, or at least a detailed explanation of why one or both are not feasible. However, despite the town's prior entreaties, GE/Arcadis has failed to credibly demonstrate why the expansion of rail transport and hydraulic conveyance will not work. Meanwhile, during the same intervening period, Lennox has gone to substantial lengths to show that both options can work. See attached technical memorandum. Also during this time, virtually every stakeholder group, our state and federal legislative delegations, and substantial swaths of the unaffiliated public have agreed with Lennox that rail transport must be utilized to eliminate as much vehicle traffic as possible. While the paragraph above is intended to provide an even-keeled, constructive description of our ongoing issues, it should not be construed as lacking emotion. Our frustration and bewilderment about the proposal's failure to address our previously raised concerns cannot be overstated. We are very frustrated by the lack of responsiveness, and we expect meaningful answers in future proposals. Under the heading, Expanded Hydraulic Conveyance Deployed in Conjunction with Rail. As stated in our comments on GE's preliminary plan, maximizing hydraulic removal/conveyance of material to the upland disposal facility is and has always been the top priority for Lennox concerning the T&D portion of the cleanup. It is estimated that the plan's use of hydraulic pumping could eliminate nearly 90% of truck traffic in reaches 5C and 6, also known as Woods Pond and New Lennox Road. At the time of our preliminary comments, we speculated that this method could be deployed in all reaches. Upon further evaluation by Weston and Sampson, we found that our initial assumptions were even more profound than we first imagined. Hydraulic conveyance, pumping through one or more pipes, can be successfully deployed for distances as long as 10 miles. By applying the 90% reduction metric across all reaches, this method would eliminate approximately 26,980 additional truck round trips. This is in addition to GE and Arcadis' assumption that 55,140 truck trips will be eliminated by using hydraulic conveyance for reaches 5C and 6. Expanded rail transport. It is gratifying to see our long-held beliefs regarding rail gaining traction in the community, including statements from our legislators and the Housatonic Railroad Company expressing an eagerness to work with EPA and GE to use the state-owned rail line to facilitate both out-of-state and UDF disposal. However, it should be noted that for the non-TSCA rated sediment bound for the UDF, Housatonic Rail's plan does not resolve the last mile problem because the contemplated spur terminates at a section of the UDF site inaccessible to the internment area without offering a subsequent conveyance solution. To address this problem, Representative Pignatelli has proposed, and Wes and Sampson have corroborated, improving the existing siding area at the historic Lenox train station on Willow Creek Road and constructing a bailey or other bridge structure across the river. This approach would bypass all local residential and commercial areas by moving sediment directly to the UDF via back roads through a mostly undeveloped area. The Select Board supports this solution. Beyond contaminated sediment, the GE Arcadis plan makes no provision for moving the large amount of equipment and backfill material that will be necessary to construct project-specific and permanent/replacement infrastructure. By both monetary and geographic standards, this will be the largest public works project in the history of Berkshire County. Therefore, the impact of importing machinery and other construction-related items will be significant. Lennox and its neighbors need to understand how this will happen. In the absence of a specific plan, we insist that rail be considered to transport such equipment and materials to the maximum extent possible. In conclusion, the GE Arcadis plan needs to be rewritten and improved in all the areas stated above. While Lennox is pleased to see that the plan includes hydraulic pumping of river sediment in reaches 5C and 6, We are dismayed to see that our requests regarding expanded pumping and rail transport have gone unheeded. Conversely, we are heartened by EPA's rejection of this plan even before the conclusion of the public comment period. Therefore, we expect a revised plan that makes all the appropriate changes to ensure a successful project while reducing community impacts. Thank you in advance for your consideration, and we look forward to your favorable response. Sincerely, Christopher J. Ketchen, Town Manager. Copies to Edward Markey, United States Senate, Elizabeth Warren, United States Senate, Richard Neal, United States House of Representatives, Her Excellency Maura Healey, Governor of Massachusetts, the Honorable Paul Mark, State Senator, the Honorable Smitty Pignatelli, State Representative, and the Select Board members.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think that it lays it out pretty well, and it gives, it's not just saying, we don't like this, it's given alternatives and ideas of what they could do. As far as the rail goes, it's gained so much traction throughout the southern Berkshire that I'm sure EPA has to listen to that. There's no getting around it. Specifically for Lenox, the hydraulic dredging is the huge thing. You know, because none of us realized until we were told by Weston and Sampson that they can go possibly 10 miles with hydraulic dredging. I know it's not that simple, but it can happen, and that goes from Pittsfield right down to Woods Pond. And it could be used in other parts of the river too if they're going to use trains to eliminate dredging, so or other means of dredging. So it addresses those. Don't forget, we're talking about the transportation and disposal plan right now. We're not talking about the whole cleanup or anything. This is just this part of it. So, you know, I think this lays it out pretty darn well, what our thoughts are.
And I appreciate you putting in the italics, letting them know that this is not a small issue to the town of Lenox, that we are incensed about their inability to provide us with an explanation as to why they don't think that rail and hydraulics is the way to go. I mean, there's been radio silence. So thank you very much for inserting those comments.
Well, you've all made clear that, you know, we haven't been ideological about this. If there's, what's most frustrating is you have said if there's an explanation, you know, let's have it.
Right.
And not only has there not been an explanation, upon your own investigation, you know, the assessment was actually incorrect. So.
Can I say one more thing about the letter before what's in my mind, before you speak? If you.
No, I'm good.
One thing that's in the letter that we just put in last week was the use of the rail transportation for moving materials in. You know, people forget this is, yeah, we have a lot of materials going out, but there's going to be this is no small construction job. This is a big deal. And there's going to be a lot of materials have to come in, a lot of equipment have to come in, and if we can utilize rail transportation for a lot of that, that would be a good thing. And I'm glad that's pointed out in the letter also.
In inflation-adjusted dollars, it dwarfs the Hoosick Tunnel. It's not even close. So it's a big deal.
You're going to try, sure.
I'm going to say stuff that is not specific to the letter, but I will say that on cleanup projects in other states, we have successfully loaded and transported material via rail, and we have also successfully hydraulically dredged and pumped several miles. So I'm just stating, hey, as a company, I know that that is possible. And without addressing your letter, I would say, we know it's possible. It's not just, we're not just looking for an explanation why not, because it is possible. That was maybe somewhat to your letter, but.
You good? Yeah.
Thanks, you have anything?
No, it's well said, everyone.
So, we do need a motion on that to send the letter, I guess.
Yes, we can do that.
Is there any more comment, or we've got all the comments done?
If I could just clarify one thing. So when I read it, I read it the way it was intended. Of course, anyone looking at the version posted online, for full disclosure, I made an error on the second page in the written version that said, our concerns cannot be understated. I spoke it correctly. Of course, our concerns cannot be overstated. Sorry about that.
Well, you got it. Yeah. Okay, Dave.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I move to approve the letter to EPA regarding the rest of the river transportation and disposal plan as presented by the town manager.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm allowed to say okay to the letter.
Okay.
I want it to be
As long
unanimous.
as long as you're comfortable with it all, I'm fine. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our budget.
All right, so, at the meeting at the beginning of the month, we presented, we had a PowerPoint presentation of the proposed FY25 operating capital budget plan. At that time, we were looking at a tax levy increase in excess of 6%.
That's okay.
I felt the same way. So in the intervening period, a couple of things have happened. And they were both, disruptive, both in a constructive and a less constructive sense to our previous assumptions. So the Chapter 70 proposal submitted by the governor earlier in the month was actually only a third of our expected projection. Overall, the governor's budget increases the Chapter 70 program across the state by the full 3%. However, Lenox, for a variety of demographic factors that are related to the funding formula, will only receive a 1% increase in Chapter 70. The unrestricted general government aid matches the 3%. The unrestricted general government aid for the town of Lenox matches the 3% that's in the overall statewide average for the governor's budget. So that our projections were spot on there. We did see some additional savings through the shared building department with the town of Great Barrington, so that is coming in below projection, at least for now. They have their own budget process to go through, but our share of that is actually more favorable than originally projected. Our outgoing choice number is lower for the, or at least is estimated to be lower by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education by about $50,000. So that's a positive improvement. And we've seen enough evidence of local revenue so far to justify some upward adjustments on the local revenue side, marginal in nature, nothing very exciting. Health insurance was projected at 8%. We were hoping that it would come in lower. However, Berkshire Health Group on Monday voted a 7% increase. And their projections, their internal projections, are showing that even at 7%, they're going to be covering a partial shortfall through reserves, which is robust, but still not able to bring in a lower percentage on employee and retiree health care. So as it relates to the levy, our projected levy is now at about $18.9 million. That's about a little over $1 million increase over FY24 for 5.9%. If we were to take then so to appreciate the actual taxpayer experience on that, you would of course have to net out the new growth. We've conservatively projected that at a historic low of $200,000. So that would bring the actual tax bill impact down to 4.8%, which is, an improvement over the 6 1/3 we were looking at on the chart at the beginning of the month. But historically, this is, not a Lenox experience. Though I would point out that this would not be remarkable in most other communities.
Our new growth, when all this construction on the Pittsfield Lenox Road, that new growth is 2 years away, probably?
Depends on how much progress is made by July 1 and whether or not enough progress is made to justify a partial assessment or a partial attribution of value. If it's 30% complete, 70% complete.
I think the Mazda site will certainly qualify for that.
Yeah, you would think.
Can't say anything about the BMW site. I doubt. The Magnuson Hotel's been doing a fair amount of work, but I don't know if that's just to keep their permit alive or if that's.
Well, they're prepping. I mean, I talked to Bill Horton about 2 weeks ago, and he's like, well, they think they're gonna be ready soon.
So that's an interesting project on a number of fronts.
Mhm.
So there's the new growth for taxation of new real property. That'll hit either next year, or if it doesn't hit next year, it'll hit the year after that. So, take your edge off of whichever fiscal year tax bill you want, and then carry it on forever. Of course, there'll also be substantial lodging and meals tax coming from a project of that magnitude to help take that edge off as well.
So are there any projects like Coles and 110 that were partially taxed and now going full taxed this year?
I would have to check on that. I have to imagine that the assessors wouldn't have been able to do a full valuation at the time of their last. But I don't know the answer to that right off the top of my head. But yeah. But again, it's either this year or the following year. So you'll get credit for it when it comes on, when it's fully online. So, Finance Committee is meeting on Tuesday to take this up, and I expect, between now and when the schools finalize their operating and capital budget request, you'll have met with your various departmental assignments as liaisons. Binders are on the tables for you to go through with your various department heads to check my math or check my budgetary logic in any other form. I look forward to those conversations. But that is where we are at the moment. And I will continue to take the challenge on to maximize service levels while simultaneously maximizing value.
So I.
Okay.
So I fully understand what happened this year. I understand that we've been kind of treading water, if you will, for a number of years now, and not addressing the town side of the budget as much as perhaps we should have or could have. I mean, I would have been against it then, but what I would say is that, at some point in time, we have to bite the bullet, and we have to understand that we have to keep our town in line with other communities as far as salaries go, as far as staffing and equipment. I think that's extremely important. And I think if we have to do it this year, we have to do it, and hopefully that'll ease it off in future years. We'll be able to hold that tax rate down to what we had in the past. But at some point, we have to upgrade. We have to get another police officer, or we have to maybe get some new fire equipment, or whatever it is, but we have to do it. And rather than keep postponing it and then taking a really big hit, I think it's better that we do it now. Get it over with. And I'll grouse about it for sure. But I understand the concept, but I'm going to try to look for creative ways to try to approach the problem or the issues. And I thank you for all the work that you did.
Yeah, the trouble with the creative ways to address the issues, it's all important and everything adds up, I get that, but it's the big things, the insurance,
I know.
you know, that's where the real money is. I mean, we can nickel and dime, and you have to do that, and we do that. But it's the big ones, and I mean, the retirement fund, is there
So,
There's thoughts on that,
you
right?
almost took
Yeah.
the words right out of my mouth, right? So we've absorbed some pretty substantial year-over-year increases to our contribution for the retirement system. You know, for those who maybe aren't aware, all the towns in Berkshire County, with the exception of a couple like Pittsfield and North Adams, and I think that's it, contribute to what's called the Berkshire County retirement system. And there's nothing remarkable about that. All the assets are invested with the Public Retiree Investment Trust with the state. It's all regulated by PARAC. But they're striving to achieve full funding by FY '28, 2028. That's great to aspire towards that, and the way that they do that is by assessing more to the member towns, which, you know, we don't have any recourse for taking the edge off. You know, that's both a good and a bad thing, right? It's bad in that we don't get much choice in what we pay. It's good in that we don't get much choice in what we pay. So, you know, if they're able to be fully funded by 2028, that would cut our retirement assessment almost in half. So you're looking at a 1.2, you know, by then what would have been a 1.3 or so liability that could be reduced to $500,000-$600,000, and it may arrive at precisely the time when we look to finance both the public safety building and the wastewater treatment plant. There might be a year's worth of overlap that could in that. I'm looking at Max because we were talking about this very thing just before the meeting. You know, so if there was a way to roll notes for a year on one or both of those projects to avoid a principal payment, so that you can take advantage of a major reduction in your retirement assessment. That would, in that scenario, that would eliminate 2/3 to 80% of that hit. The hit, by the way, that the voters approved at 5% unanimously. So it's not like they aren't expecting that it's coming, but boy, wouldn't it be nice to neutralize it entirely. There's a possibility that could happen. So, you know, the out year projections are always tough. I mean, we're always projecting, you know, 6, 7, 8% in the out years because we're conservative, and, you know, some would accuse me and others on staff of being pessimistic about our long-term revenue prospects. And but I mean, if I could sort of act out of character for a moment, that is one possibility that could really smooth things out in the out years if they're, you know, indeed able to achieve full funding.
We sort of talked about this in a roundabout way during the Permanent Building Committee meeting a week ago. And we are beginning to set aside enterprise funds in anticipation of debts for the two big projects. We sort of contemplated, and then we got a little bit distracted by Dave and his grave concerns about an electrician and other things, and we didn't really finalized concept, but it is true that, I mean, we expect the rate environment to get better. So it may be appropriate to roll notes, as you said, and get a little further down the line before we get into the bonding.
Yeah. And you bring up the matter of the stabilization account, right? The setting aside
Right.
of excess revenue while we're waiting for bonds to come online, or the payment of bonds to come online. That's not going to be an insignificant balance by the time we get to that point. I mean, you're looking at $6 million of stabilization resources to take the edge off. I think Mr. Roach pointed this out at the last town meeting. So, while on the operating side, when it comes to balancing ongoing expenses with ongoing revenue, long-term, there are a number of opportunities that are worth mentioning. Our costs and tax levies tend to move in an upward direction. That's just human nature, and it's been the case economically since the beginning of time. But if you can create predictability, which Lenox has for at least the last decade, has been super predictable about what's going to be levied and what's going to be required. We're running into a little bit of potential volatility, but there are, two very big contingencies that work in our favor as the calendar rolls on.
Well, keep in mind, I understand this is sort of a bump in the road here that we're looking at, but we are, at present, undergoing 3 major projects in addition to the standard running of the town. And we're starting to actually invest some dollars into the fact that we have the public safety project, the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and this budget also includes a $500,000 commitment to our finally approved affordable housing project. So, these are major projects happening in Lenox for the benefit of Lenox, but they do have costs.
Context is also important, right? I mean, this woe is me conversation that I'm having, maybe just with myself, falls apart as soon as you cross the town line, right? So it's, there's context here. I think that's important. We take our responsibilities seriously. We maybe don't take ourselves that seriously, but there needs to be pencil sharpening. I've got to work harder. Y'all are gonna work harder anyway. So, but I mean, I think there's reason for optimism, which is not something you typically hear me say. I usually let you say that, but I'll say it.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
So no motion here, it's just FinCom starts up Tuesday night.
Do they have this?
They'll, as soon as they can come and pick it up. So I'll let Chair Cass know after we adjourn.
Okay, that being done, our next meeting will be February 14th, and now we're going to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss negotiation strategy with respect to union and non-union personnel, and to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation, PLH Vineyard Sky. And we'll do a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Mary Beth Mitz, aye.
I think you need a formal motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I jumped on it.
And Mr. Chair.
We won't be returning.
The board does not intend to return.
Exactly. Let's make a motion, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, I'll make the motion. So I move that the board convene an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with union and non-union personnel, strategy with respect to potential litigation against PLV Vineyard Sky, and discussing these matters may have detrimental impact on a town's negotiating and/or litigation strategy.
I'll second.
It's a roll call vote.
Mary Beth Mitz, aye.
Dave Roach, aye.
Ed Lane, aye.
Neil Maximilian, aye.
Max Scherf, aye.
Okay. Thank you all.